Hello there, welcome to the studios of Weekend Deal. It's always a pleasure to have you join us on the show. Yes, just before now, we were having a chat with Aisha in the studio. Of course, don't worry, you'll meet her in a moment. And we're talking about, you know, the need to study history because many scholars will tell you to understand the present, you actually need to understand what happened yesterday, and that way you can make a better judgment or better sense of what is really happening today. And archives can actually help preserve what really happened yesterday, whether through documents, photography, or video, or what have you. And then it's help, you know, it gives you that physical evidence that support stories of the past, and in a way help extend the memory of any society, because without archives really we only have stories of winners, Aisha, and you never really can understand what happened to the people that lived at that point in time, their pose, what they were thinking, what were going through their mind. And that's what archives help you to do. And in Nigeria, we cannot really say that we have done well in terms of archiving our historical past. And of course, that is exactly what we are going to base our discussion on today. Archives, the Nigerian story.
Yes, exactly. You know, back in the 1960s, Professor Kenneth Onwuka-Dike was the one who founded the Nigerian National Archives. And when we trace back the Nigerian history, it goes way before 1960. So the need to preserve all this historical event, and Nigeria is a very large country with a lot of historical happenings. And talking about historical happenings, I think today in history marks a day for one of the tribes in Nigeria. Now, archives is the institution that takes care or keeps record. How do we take care of, how do we refer back to make reference when we want to? To set the discussion proper, here is a backgrounder by Francis.
History has showed how people of the ancient era kept records of their thoughts and experiences on items at their disposal. However, with the development of paper and other non-textual documentary forms, such as films, photographs, still and motion pictures, the need for the preservation of archival records cannot be underestimated. Although the idea and eventual establishment of an archive in Nigeria is a product of the colonial era, the initiative and push that brought it to fruition has variously been credited to Professor Kenneth Dike, who is regarded as the founding father of archives in Nigeria.
The archives, like we know, the conception is about all records that are not needed, that should be dumped. Sometimes we even feel, let's burn them off, they're occupying space. Now, if you talk about that, that is the archives as the records we talk about. Now, in this book, you see a little differentiation about what the term archives itself means. Archives means the institution that takes care of the records. Archives are the records that are containing the past transactions of an institution, of a person, you understand? They are called archives. The organization itself that takes care of this is called archives, okay? And then the building where such records are conserved or preserved is also called archives. So there are three ways that you see archives. Archives in the real sense are documents that have stayed for nothing less than 25 years.
National Archives of Nigeria, a department of the Federal Ministry of Information, was established in 1954 as the Nigerian Record Office until 1957, when legislation changed its name to the National Archives. It is located at 3 sites: Ibadan, Enugu, and Kaduna. Each site houses the archives for its geographical area: Ibadan for the western region, Enugu for the eastern region, and Kaduna for the northern region. Archives serve as vital means for the preservation and presentation of the cultural heritage and national identity, as well as tool for administrative efficiency.
If an organization is engaged in transactions, okay, communications, you have correspondences that come in, you have policies that you make, you have projects that you undertake as an organization. If evidences of such are not documented and preserved, how do you refer back when you want to make a way forward? How do you refer back when you want to make analysis? How do you get statistics of your performance? It must be on records of what you have done. And if such records are not documented in a strategized place that is called an archive, then where do you get them? So that brings up the necessity of the archives.
In the past 3 or more decades, the fortunes of the National Archives have been dwindling substantially as it has suffered neglect, gross underfunding, and marginalization.
I do not think, from my own personal opinion, that the archive as an institution has been well funded by the government. And unfortunately, like I said, the archives, because it's not an autonomous body, cannot initiate, you understand, IGR, internally generated revenues, and control them.
There is a clarion call for the digitization of archives, which is a modern technology that guarantees the elongation of the lifespan of archival materials.
It is something you cannot do without digitization. But you see, as it is, the ultimate, whether we like it or not, is an issue, is an issue that is hinging on hybridization. You certainly cannot do without the paper records. And so the issue of hybridization comes up. There were efforts severally made to have the archives become an autonomous body, a commission. And I bet you, if serious thought is given to such an idea, that is when the archives itself, we have the think tanks, some retired and some still serving, can come together, strategize on ways to boost the archives and make the industry very, very, very versatile. And the impact of the archives will then be felt more and more in Nigeria.
The need to preserve cultural heritage materials in Nigeria cannot be overstated. Therefore, our focus on Weekend Deal today will be on archives, the Nigerian story.
Well, of course, that has actually given us a right footing on the things that we're going to be looking at on the show today. And if from the report, yes, we have archives stationed in the north and the south and the west and the eastern part of the country. But a lot of times you realize that this historical documents that are kept in some of these places are, its maintenance, how they are being kept is actually not favorable now, in the sense that there's need to digitize, to digitalize a lot of documents found there because they are not well preserved in a way. And of course, part of that report, you realize that funding is another key challenge. Of course, we're going to be looking at funding in the course of this program, but National Archives of Nigeria, some people have actually made a case for them that they should not be like a department under the Ministry of Information. They should be an autonomous body whereby they can have their direct budget from presidency, just like the way the National Library is structured. And perhaps if this is done, we'll begin to see
more of the
new light in
Nigerian
the
history.
as far as archives are concerned in the country, because it could be a huge revenue, generating agency or institution, if you like.
Exactly. I quite agree with you. And the thing is, sometimes with archive, we don't know the things we're using right now. In 25 years to come, they may actually not be in existence. Yeah. So we don't know what and what to keep. And when they have this kind of body, they would try and see what things are actually would be kept for archiving in the future. And I think it's a way forward.
Well, it's a way forward, definitely. And, of course, with, for example, most of these, histories,
yes.
incidences that are really happening in our society today are well captured by the newspaper, the print media. And you begin to wonder, okay, let's trace back. What was the first news or print media we had in the country? I'm sure a lot of people will be thinking, oh, what is it? Okay, fine, you are free to Google it. I'm about to do that myself, but this report will actually guide us, put together by Bayo Ogori.
The struggle of independence by our founding fathers' successes were largely attributed to a vibrant anti-colonial press in Nigeria, with reference to pre-colonial publications such as the West African Pilot, Iwe Iroyin, among others at that time.
By 1926, that's when we had the Daily Times. And the Daily Times was started actually by a couple of young, upwardly mobile Lagosians, so to say. Gradually, with time, in the northern part of the country. And then don't forget the West African Pilot, started by the likes of Zik, which helped in great measure to fight colonial master, to retreat, to beat a retreat. But when the West African Pilot, I think in the late 1940s, around 1948, I'm trying to recall exactly, it's been quite a while now. At that time, apart from Daily Times, West African Pilot, and up north, we had the vernacular paper called Gaskiya Tafi Kobo, started around 1948 or 1950. It was also a weekly newspaper, but written in Hausa. And that helps substantially to educate the people. But even at that, if you look at the nature of the literacy level vis-a-vis North-South, you find that in terms of literacy level, especially Western education kind of literacy, Northern Nigeria was lagging behind. And that's why when Gaskiya Tafi Kobo was started in the late 1940s, I think soon after the Second World War or thereabout, when the Second World War ended, the vernacular paper started. And then also there were papers written with the Arabic letter in Ajami, they call it up north. But that is years later, especially when post-colonial Nigeria, a lot of agitation for the press, for the media began. But before then, even the dawn of the Tribune. Tribune also started long before Nigeria's independence. And so far is the longest running privately owned newspaper, controlled largely by the Aolos. Now, why I'm giving this is because for people to understand how the Nigerian press evolved.
Sadly, however, these laudable efforts of our past heroes seem to have gone into oblivion, with the memories of these publications gone like a candle in the wind. Some observers have questioned our culture of archiving historical moments for posterity.
What we have now is that if you go to the cemetery or newspapers are buried, you find a lot of carcasses. And with that, their history often not properly documented or archived. And if you don't know history, or if you don't know especially media history, you can't really understand how we got to the present stage we are in now.
The importance of documenting our historical past and memories cannot be overemphasized. Archives are the documented memory of the nation. They tell our stories and help us to understand who we are as individuals and as a nation.
Indeed, archives help tell a story, especially for us, the younger ones. Now, way back, before this, Suleiman asked a question. What was the first newspaper? I don't know. I had to Google it. And I think it's the Iwe Irohin, Suleiman. Iwe Irohin.
I need somebody who speaks Yoruba to really pronounce this
Okay.
right now.
Iwe Irohin. Irohin. Well, interesting. And you know, funny enough, it was sold at 120 cowries at that as of that time, and it was published every 15 days or so, and it was only the elite Yoruba then that used to buy. And if we don't talk about all these things, I don't think people would actually sit down to start thinking of
and I tell you
archiving
something,
things.
Aisha, there are a group of Nigerian journalists now who are trying to, you know, use the digital platform to archive, you know, some of these newspapers published from January 1960 to December 2010. And what are they trying to achieve is the fact that it's not just to capture, you know, the history, the political history or the economic history or the cultural history at the time, but also to create a platform for, you know, researchers to so that they can make easy reference to, and journalists can also make reference to them, because they say that, for example, take a look at the scenario when Fela Anikulapo Kuti, of course, the Afrobeat, you know, giant, if you like. Now we have legend.
Yes,
now
legend.
you have Burna Boy. There was a publication at some point that Burna Boy is actually the, you know, the originator and all of that. But
no,
Fela actually, you know, tour around Europe with his Afrobeat. And then that create a perspective. You know, you look at when soldiers attacked him, you know, was it in 1976 or thereabout? You know, they wanted to know, it's not just getting this report from New York Times or what have you, the papers that are not, you know, within our own locality. What about the reports of those who were present at that point in time? What about what happened to those reports? It's very important that we get those accounts, you know, so that we can make reference to them and perhaps will help us understand the right mood of the people, the right perspective, and give everything context.
Suleiman, whatever, all that you have said are actually true. And you know, the major thing that is affecting all this is funding. With the right funding, all this can be achieved, and we'll see, like with just a click of our finger, we can just go back in history, like way before the colonial masters, you know. And Thelma Obazi put together this report on funding archives in Nigeria.
Hear the birds sing in the morning.
Our archives tell stories that can give clarity, enable direction, building patriotism and affinity.
We are more like a society of use and discard. So there is no sense of history. In 1820, this is where Mary Slessor lived. This is where Richard Lander, Lugard, Azikiwe, and it's becoming apparent that we should have kept some of those things.
I must be going now. Yeah.
When do I expect you back?
Oh, I don't know. About 2 or 3 days.
In archiving our unique experiences, the preservation, storage, restoration, transfer, and cataloging of Nigeria's footprint since independence can bring more progress.
A place like NTA, in a little way, we try to keep some of the tapes, but somewhere along the lines, you know, there's some people that came along and because they were looking for space, just threw them away. And that's like throwing away history, because some time back when they were trying to do a documentary on pre-colonial Nigeria, some producers have to fly out of Nigeria to go to England to get some of these materials from BBC, Path. That's why we are where we are today.
Research shows that accurate archiving requires appropriate and sustained financial resource.
It's more like a national project because it's part of our history. The funding requirement will be very, very big. We may have to look outside of NTA. One, we want to be able to collate them, want to do restoration because some of them have been kept for a long time. The deterioration has set in, and after you restore some of this, then we're going to go into what we call digitization. A lot of people have shown interest in working with us. We are still trying to look at who will be the best, will have our interests at heart.
The means of convincing an investor to come on board is for you to have a business plan that shows clearly what investment is needed, is required, and what are the expected returns on investment. That's what makes it attractive.
As we tell our stories with authenticity and accuracy, it is very likely that affinity and understanding will be upheld in addition to likely return on investment and national development and progress.
NTA has produced a lot of iconic programs, a lot, at least even from the 60s till date. Some of those programs properly channeled, properly archived, properly put out there, digitized. We have a department of archives and we are working to build it into a bigger thing because with our archival materials, I tell you that NTA, for example, we don't actually need to produce anything. Some of those things were produced in the old days. People are always asking for them. And the world of digital television now, pay-per-view. You want to watch something, even if we are charging you at a minimal rate of 10, 20 naira per hour or per program. If we have about 30, 40 million people all over the world watching, it's a handsome reward for the organization.
Those who will be investing, we invest to put such platforms in place, and we expect to earn a return where people who utilize such information, such data, and that have access to such platform pay a fee. So it serves the purpose of getting proper funding for such investment and also providing the needed database for national development.
Children at home, you're welcome to Tales by Moonlight, reaching you from NTA Sokoto.
I'm actually smiling because I've heard a lot about Modeling Park this, Modeling Park that, and it was quite refreshing to see her. And that is what, archiving, does, because it gives you that, physical evidence to back up stories. Now, I've never met her. I've never seen her before, but I've heard her stories. But now, you saw her there in that report, and then, so many things were actually highlighted in that report. And you also heard the story of the fact that we're doing a documentary about Nigeria, and then we had to travel to England to get footage of things that happened in Nigeria. Really.
Well, as of that time, I believe we don't have maybe we didn't have the capacity to, because it was a pre-colonial materials that they were looking for. So we didn't have that archival proper documentation.
Well, you may say that, but even if it's pre-colonial. What happened during the colonial and after, you know, post-colonial, I mean, during the post-colonial period? A lot of times we really don't care, but it's good that people are making concerted effort to actually, you know, preserve some of these documents, because they would certainly, you know, be a reference point, you know, when we talk about the need to, I mean, when we engage the future. And one other key area is the fact that even as individuals, a lot of people really don't understand the importance of, you know, appreciating archival materials.
Well, you know, talking about individuals, this brings me like a personal memory. There was a time I was going through my mom's suitcase where she puts her important documents. So as I was going through them, I picked up a card. And lo and behold, when I saw the card, I was reading it, it was their wedding card.
Really?
Like, yes. About almost 40 years now. So when I saw it, I read everything. I was like, so this is where your marriage took place. Oh my goodness. I want my wedding card to look exactly like this.
Oh.
You understand? So that's what archiving does. It takes you back to when you were not there, and now you are here with it. It connects you with the past.
Yeah. And of course, that effect can never be described at some point. I can just imagine what was going through your mind when you saw that. But don't worry, we'll certainly get your card designed that way, Aisha.
Yes, no problem.
All right now we take our next report. Still talking about our archives, archives in Nigeria, telling the Nigerian story as vis-a-vis archiving, you know, some of our historical past or historical materials. And Ijoma has actually taken our time to do a detailed, you know, investigation about how much importance we have attached to archives in the country.
Throughout human history, man has always found a way of communicating and transferring information from one generation to another, using oral traditions, carvings on stones and papyrus, up until these modern times. And so, the very act of consciously keeping these traditions in form of papers, artifacts, images and sounds in archives, libraries and museums constitute a major part of the memory of the peoples of the world, which reflects the diversity of language.
Byproducts, documentary byproducts of human activities that are retained due to their enduring values. And it forms a very, very important aspect of any human history.
If you have ever imagined what this world would look like without the memories of who we are and where we came from, or what past events have shaped the way we live today, you will certainly appreciate the concerted efforts of men and women who are saving the memories we all cherish today.
An archivist is somebody who is passionate about history. Not only being passionate about history, is somebody who has eye for details, is somebody that is, you know, strongly committed to service. So all this put together, we are looking at a very vital aspect of a nation. We call ourselves the keepers of the memory of the nation. Essentially, we keep information. And you know, without information, there is no development.
Over the years, issues of preserving cultural heritage has become a source of concern to broadcast specialists and its related institutions because of increased risk and challenges of preserving collective history that were captured in sounds and images. Hence, the call for government of the world to develop a universal standard-setting instrument to provide the basis for the protection of the world's documentary heritage, including in digital form, through strategic national legislative policies and implementation frameworks for countries.
And now talking about the archives of Nigeria, where we are. We may not have been where we actually ought to have been, but definitely we have moved from where we used to be. When you consider the massive records that we keep, then you begin to appreciate what we are doing towards digitization. We are digitizing. You can say it's slow, but definitely it is steady.
In 1992, at its 38th session, UNESCO's General Conference, however, made recommendation concerning the preservation of and access to documentary heritage in digital form, to mark a milestone in UNESCO's effort towards preservation of documentary heritage all over the world.
Where the archives actually is succinctly captured in the activities of the UNESCO is more or less in the memory of the World Committee, and they have encouraged all member states to establish their national committees in order to run with the vision. Nigeria, as a member state, inaugurated the National Committee on the 15th of March 2007. Though the progress has been a bit slow, but we will get there.
The National Archives of Nigeria have adopted these resolutions and worked side by side with other international archives organizations in documenting the memory of Nigeria's colonial and post-colonial history. But there are challenges. Nigeria's historic documents have suffered a variety of fates, from illegal access to unwanted destruction, natural disasters, poor preservation, lack of modern storage facilities, and access.
We have what we call migrated archives. Archives that were, either stolen or just removed, especially by our colonialists. I remember when I joined the service, so many correspondences were, flying between Nigeria and the UK, for instance. Nobody wants to willingly relinquish a record. Do you understand? So we have had this trouble. Even at a point, the government as a body, had to, intervene and all that. But we are not giving up. Because what is ours is ours.
Nevertheless, the course is clear and the journey to achieving success is unlimited, and so, as we recognize that there is no sustainable development or rule of law in any society without its history, it is therefore imperative for every organized institution to become more resolute in establishing and sustaining a functional archive that will add greater value to human knowledge.
Yes, the discourse is on Archives, the Nigerian story. But we take a break now. When we come back, our discussion continues.
Thank you for staying with us. If you just join us, we have been talking about archives of the Nigerian story. And of course, as we informed you earlier, today happens to be Nupe Day. Yes, Nupe Day is celebrated every 26th of June every year. And of course, we have journalists in the studio. I guess that you will be interested to meet. But first, let's take this background report about Nupe Day, and after that, we'll engage our guests.
On the 26th day of every June in every year, the Nupe people located in north-central Nigeria and other parts of the world come together to celebrate a traditional festival titled the Nupe Day.
It was the date that Nupe people, for the first time, challenged and defeated the British army. That was 1896, if I'm not forgetting, about 125 years ago, which was a victory of hard work, dedication, courage, and determination of our people that is respected and upholded up to the present day, that we are together, that we want to promote peaceful coexistence among Nupes. Because when you look at it, Nupes are widespread across Nigeria and even beyond Nigeria. We have there as Nupes in diaspora that are now coming up because of this Nupe Day celebration.
On that auspicious day, the Nupes are dressed in their regalia, which consists of red, green, and blue, which signifies culture.
We came up with a Nupe anthem, which, when it is played, the Nupe man, wherever he is, he wakes up, sings along. Then we thought of the identity, the kind of flag, the symbol, and we came up with this these colors. These are Nupe colors of red, blue, and green. Red signifying the fact that you don't mess around with the Nupe man, and the blue is indicative of our origin, which is the River Niger, and green representing, of course, the road to our stomach, agriculture, and this is what this thing signifies, and we are very proud of it.
The celebration is done amidst pomp and pageantry with sons and daughters, visitors and friends of the kingdom.
It is a celebration of our great culture and civilization. It is a day we pay tribute to our creative and innovative ancestral warriors whose collective spirit has guided us all along for independence to death.
The Nupe Day is aimed at fostering unity, discovering potentials, and maintaining the culture of Nupes.
Was to celebrate ourselves, to know who we are, to know from where we are coming from as the Nupes, and all the assimilated Nupes. When I say Nupes, you find the Nupes of even the Hausas and the Yorubas, all part of Nupes, and we are fully assimilated. So it's just to celebrate ourselves as Nupes, and to, of course, portray what we are to the wider world. And thirdly, to bring in everybody onto the fold of the Nupe-speaking area.
The Nupe Day witnessed many beautiful events from boat regatta, horse riding, dances, and symposium, among others. The Nupe Day has come to stay and stand the test of time and shall continue from generation to generation, becoming bigger and better till the end of time.
Quite interesting. With over a century-old history of Nupe Day celebration, one can say it is in the right direction of what we are discussing today. And we have joined us in the studio Engineer Yabaji Yusuf Sani, who is Jakadan Nupe. That's an ambassador of the Nupe people, a national coordinator, Nupe Foundation. Welcome on Weekend Deal, sir.
Thank you, Aisha, for having me.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's been over a century old tradition. What informed this? What brought about this celebration and why? Because, yes, we've heard and seen it, but you are the ambassador of Nupe. We would want to know about this Nupe Day and why the 26th of June.
Okay, let me begin with the typical attributes of Nupes, which is, kindness, accommodating people, and then trying to show love wherever we are, which is depicted by what I'm wearing and what I want to give you now, which is the courtesy of His Royal Highness Nupe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
And also, let me give you. That is the courtesy of His Royal Highness. It's Nupe, Bagadoji.
Okay, Bagadoji.
Very important you do that.
Okay. Yes.
So, your question was, what is the significance of the Nupe Day?
Yes.
Well, the significance of Nupe Day is to underscore the importance of the date itself, which is the day that we defeated the British Army. Nupe Cavalry defeated the British Army at Ogidi which is in today's Kogi State. Yes. So, and what is instructive here also is that defeat whittled down the assault by the colonial masters at that time to the, because it protected or defended the Sokoto Caliphate, the north, to the extent that I think it is true that the British had to retreat for a long time before they returned. You know, there was this Berlin Conference of 1884 to 1885, where the colonial masters balkanized West Africa and for trade and things like that. So the German, like you know, they now emerged as the new superpower imperialist. So the Germans were about to come to Nigeria. So when the British got wind of this, they quickly came back. Otherwise, the Nupes would have chased the British away forever, and they would not have come to Nigeria. So it's very significant. So what we are trying to draw attention to is the fact that there's a big lesson for us to learn, which is that Nupes are not laid-back people. And when you look at the contemporary history and even the historical records, it is that Nupes have demonstrated and have contributed immensely to the development of this country, Nigeria. I'll tell you, historically, you hear of Canon Dabo.
Yes, yes,
the man Dabo came from Nupe land. He was from Agaye, the Dabo. You also hear of Totif, civil land. The first Totif in Benue, civil land, was a Nupe man. You also hear of Alafin of Oyo, the descendant of Yoruba, that is that's Aramia, the descendant of Dudua, the founder of the Yoruba race. The man that became Alafin of Oyo, was a Nupe, because the wife of that Aramia was a Nupe woman, and she gave birth to the Alafin of Oyo, who became. And then today, if you go to Lagos, you will find that there's Oshodi, there's Lafia. You find Nupe people all over the place in the history. I'm talking about the historical aspect of Nupes, how important we are to this country. And like you know, we are native to Middle Belt, which is the north central region. But we are a dominant ethnic group in Niger State, very significant minority in Kwara State, and we are present also in Kogi State, and present also in FCT here. So Nupes, apart from the Nupes you find in diaspora, here in Nigeria, where we are native to, we are dominant. And we are not dominant just for being dominant. When you look at our land, when you go to Nupe land, you will find that the Kainji Dam you hear about, predominantly people there are Nupes. The Jeba Dam you hear about, predominantly people there are Nupes. You hear of Bida Basin, which is the oil and gas deposit in the North Central. Bida Basin means that which is the central city of Nupes, that is the capital of Nupes. So that hydrocarbon deposit, which is predominantly gas, is in Nupe land.
We are talking about the need to, archive a lot of this material. I want to know, as part of, this Nupe Day celebration, are there efforts being made to document some of this history, historical moments of the Nupes?
Yeah, in fact, like I told you, when you follow the gallantry, the industry, of Nupes, like I was trying to enumerate to you, you will find that in 1970s, as from 1970s in this country, we started witnessing retrogression in that agility and then industry of the Nupes.
Very important now. Yes, I know you have, Bida, Nupe Resource Center in Bida.
Exactly.
That's
so
where a lot of,
exactly. Archives,
where are we now in terms of the development of that place?
The edifice is under development. The edifice is there. It's a very big edifice, which we call National Research Center for the Nupes. And like I was telling you, we have Nupe. We have also national and cultural anthem, which is sung whenever the Nupes are meeting.
I think I've listened to that once.
Exactly, very sweet music and very energizing.
It has to be sweet.
It brings the zeal in you to do more of whatever you are doing for the Nupes. So Nupes, like I was telling you, we have given, or not only in history, like we said, even contemporary, even today, as we speak. You see, even your studio here, your institution here, we have had Nupes that have really given a very good account of themselves. The late Kerry Ahmed, whose wife, spoke a while ago, Ajay Amina Kerry. Kerry was a very strong person in this NTA. I'm sure everybody knows him. He's late today. You have Mohamed Kuda Abubakar, who's one of the foremost newscasters, I'm sure, and you have here. And you have one of your ministers too, who was Professor Do It Well. You all know who is Professor Do It Well, which is Professor Jerry Ghana. He was the Minister of Information, isn't it? And he gave a good account of himself as Nupe man. Then today, if you look at what Nupes have done, you look at it from the judiciary, you look at it from the government. We have been the Chief Justice of Federation, Lebo Kutigi, of blessed memory too. And then you look at what we have done as Nupes in terms of even today. I can go on and on and on and tell you what we are doing.
The idea is, yes, we have Nupe, people scattered around the country and are doing, the region well, because the results is, is there for people to see.
Anywhere we come.
You talk about revenue generation, and I know that, for some people, when you have archival materials like this, put together, that can actually, generate income. And what really plans do you have for that Nupe Resource Center? What should we expect from there? What should we see there, and what stage of development?
Yeah, well, National Resource Center is an amalgamation of, the Nupes all over the country, and like you rightly said, our trade, we're great traders. That's what we are known all over the world. Actually, the brass, the Bida brass, I'm sure you must have heard about it.
Yes.
So it's still there. And of course, plans are afoot, to ensure that we bring it to the international level, whereby it will not be the local, the level that it is today. Because today, trade is very important. It's through trade, like we were before, is through trade that we became connected with the Yorubas, with all the other people that I've mentioned. So yes, plans are there to ensure that we do not only do it for others, we do it for ourselves too. Like I'm saying, what we have done for Nigeria, we should do it for Nupe land. And that is what, for instance, today, you can see how our situation has become. That in the government today, like I was trying to tell you before, when you look at the First Republic, we had, like Makama Bida, we have Mapatigi, we had Ibrahim Tako. These were ministers who are Nupes. Then you now wake up, you to a situation where we don't have a single minister, we don't have a single governor, we don't have a single National Assembly representative that can be called a principal officer. You can see how bad things have become for Nupes. That's why, like you are saying, for us to do what we are doing in terms of bringing our people together is a must, because we are great people. We are giving so much to this country. We have Shehu Musa, who was Secretary of the Government in Second Republic. That is Shagari. I'm trying to tell you that if I sit here, I'll tell you so many Nupe.
And I will never get tired of listening.
I know, Suleiman is just so amazed with whatever you're saying, sir. But then, when you talk about all these great people and great things, people would want to go to Nupe land.
Exactly.
I was there. I was in Niger some months back. And I know there are some landmark achievements.
Exactly.
Can you still tell others that have not been there, what are they to expect when they go to Nupe land? What are the landmark achievements in?
Oh, so much, so much. You have heard of Lafiagi, this Sunti, sugar. You've heard of also Lafiagi, isn't it? Which today has been taken over by Boa, that is Abdul Samad, and Dangote. We allow them to come to develop the place, because Nupe, we are rich in terms of natural resources and natural endowment, agriculture wise. The National Cereal Research Center was sited in Nupe land. Not just because, not for political reasons, it's for the reasons that the greatest amount of rice that was produced in this country locally, more than 60% of it was from Nupe land. That is from the Nupe people. We are the one feeding the country at that point in time. That's why the First Republic government cited National Cereal Research Center, which is a big outfit there to continue to develop how we produce these cereals and things like that. To tell you, that's what I'm telling you. Wow. And then also, we have just launched the development of hydrocarbon, that's oil and gas. NNPC has moved to Nupe land. They are now developing the Bida Basin, and it's predominantly gas. Just like what you have in Benue. You know, Benue 12 is also predominantly gas. Our own is predominantly gas. And the whole world is going gas today. So NUPES very soon will assume our position, which we had before this time, you know, academically, and then socially and politically.
And trust me, it's a, you know, an engagement I would love to have. Even after, you know, this conversation, I'm sure I'll reach out to you to know more about my kinsmen. And it's been a wonderful time, you know, chatting with you. And yes, we have been talking with Engineer Yabagi Yusuf Sani, Jakarta Nupe. He's the coordinator Nupe Foundation, and I know a whole lot of things will definitely come from my engagement with him, because I know we also have Nupe dictionary and a whole lot of that as
and
well.
Even the first inland port, Barrow,
yes,
it's also cited in Nupe land.
We will get
where
there.
the colonial masters were bringing out, you know, everything from Nigeria was shipped out of that place.
Thank you very much.
So we are so big, so strong.
Thank you very much. We have to go back to the you know, archives, the Nigerian story. Of course, that has been dominating the conversation here in the studio. And right now, we take the story put together by Idayo. It centers on the NTA angle. If you talk about, you know, archiving some of the materials.
Where do you keep them? That's where the library comes. You have to have a library where you keep those programs, the content. Unfortunately, when we've shown the program, transmitted the program, and we send them to the library, invariably, we do not pay much attention to the quality of the library or to the staff in the library. So most times you find that in most stations, they look for the most junior staff and they are not trained. And it's just like a store. They give the program, they put them in the store. Not properly inventoried, not properly documented and stored so that you can know exactly where they are and be able to access them with easy references and all that.
I call it Digital Archiving Project in NTA, yes. When we came in as a management, in its wisdom, we find it expedient that we should begin to archive all our materials. Yes, before now, we have what you call libraries and all that scattered all over the country. But we realize that with the huge archival material we have, there's a need to collect them from wherever they are. All the stations, we have good materials there. And we realize that if we begin to collect our old materials, we can put them into a proper archive, digitize them, put them in a proper archive, and then they'll be available for use to all Nigerians. We decided that we create a department that will be for archiving. And we are still in the infancy stage because to archive all what NTA has will require huge resources which is not readily available.
So, Akoni, have you looked me from head to foot head?
then I am resemblance calendar for you.
Oh, so doesn't today mean anything to you?
Anyway, until you are prepared to tell me your problems, my ears are good.
You know, the culture of keeping records starts from the family. Like earlier, I talked to Suleiman about an archive that I came across, because an archive is when it's 25 years or more. And this time around, Elizabeth Akbai put together this report on archiving family history. Let's take a look.
The video you're about to watch tells the story of a person who had to learn the hard way that keeping family records is very important. Success is a young man who was born into the family of George. His parents are divorced, with his father relocating to the United States when he was very young, while he lived with his mother in Lagos. Growing up, Success hardly ever spoke to his father and knew very little about him. After he graduated, he received a scholarship to attend an American university.
Sometimes I tell you guys, I was so living for this country. Just like that. I swear, I don't get any scholarship for that, my master's. Wow, congratulations.
He then had to apply for a student visa at the embassy.
What's your name? Success.
The interview at the embassy was going quite well until the visa officer questioned him about his relationship with his father.
And what is your mom's name? Augustina. Augustina. What about your dad? George. George. Okay, where do your mom and dad reside? My mom stay in Lagos and my dad stay outside country. Okay, outside country. Alright. When did you speak with your dad last? From my childhood. From your childhood, I understand. I missed all my dad. I don't understand. So, do you have any picture of your dad? No. You don't have any childhood picture of you and your dad? Yes.
Because of how strained it was, it seemed to the visa officer that there was barely a relationship at all, which was highly suspicious. Success was then denied the visa based on this assumption and was told to reapply again at a later date. Sometime after this, Success met up with his friend James to lament about this.
Oh, no, I didn't tell you that. I don't ready like this. They do it. I don't come back like that. Now I don't say those the one. They tell me say I don't.
When he told James what had happened, James said it would have been better if his family had had proof of their father, no matter how tense their relationship was.
Carry all the necessary documents that you need to get this.
Childhood pictures, phone calls, birthday cards, and other possessions would have been important in the long run. Documenting all types of family records will always be necessary in life. It provides evidence of a life lived, it tells stories, and it also creates a sense of cultural identity.
And then, of course, this is where we call it a day. It has been a wonderful day, I must say. Aisha, I'm sure you will keep this.
Yes, as a souvenir.
Never ever misplace it.
No.
If you like, put it in your archive.
Yes, definitely.
Right.
It's going straight to my archive because I went to Niger State, Mina and Bida to be precise, but Suleiman did not give me this, and so this goes to the archive.
Waiting for a day like this where it will come directly from Ethiopia. Which one is more honorable?
This definitely is
All
going.
right, so
yes,
there you have it. Tomorrow is another day. Certainly we'll be back with that discussion on archives, the Nigerian story. Join us.